I'm Eleanor from Fast Fashion Therapy, and in this video today I'm going to take you through how to do a patching technique inspired by the Japanese craft of Boro. Boro is a technique that can be used to mend tattered clothing and textiles through layering new patches of fabric over the worn down area. Sashiko stitching, a kind of running stitch, is used to bind the layers of fabric together. Classic Boro and Sashiko uses indigo dyed fabric as a base with a white cotton thread running through it. In this modern version of the technique, we'll be using the same patching and layering processes, but we'll be using different colours of thread and fabric. Boro can be used on a lot of different kinds of fabric and a lot of different styles of clothing. In this video, we're going to be using it on a pair of jeans, so I've got a couple of examples here just to give you an idea of what it can look like. Here we've got an example on a cotton shirting fabric. We've got a few different styles of visible mend going across the shirting. This one is quite a subtle one, so we're just using a matching white cotton patch with a white cotton thread running through it. The other two are more visible styles of mending, so we're using contrasting fabric patches and different colour threads to make a real feature out of the mend. On these jeans we've got quite a few different patches. This one is over a tear in the knee, so the patch is on top of the hole so you can't see the hole underneath. This one is going across the hem of the trouser where it was ripped and torn. I've placed a patch underneath just to reinforce the area with using the yellow stitching running all the way up the patch and then turned over the patch at the bottom to create a new hem. So this technique doesn't need that much equipment. We've just got a few things you're going to be using today. You'll need a fabric patch. In this case we've chosen a contrasting pattern and colour to the jeans that we're going to be working on, but it's your choice whether you want it to be matching or contrasting. You'll need some sharp scissors or embroidery scissors, some cotton thread, some needles and some pins to work with. You can either use dressmaker's pins or safety pins. We've got a few different threads here to choose from. We're probably going to use one of these thicker threads as it gives more of a texture to the patch when it's finished. You can work with different kinds of threads, different thicknesses, different colours. If you're using something finer, I would suggest that you double it up on the needle so that you get a thicker and stronger stitch line when it comes to stitching your patch on. Start by laying out the area that you want to patch in front of you. Make sure it's nice and flat and you've got a bit of space around it to work on. Cut your patch out so that it's bigger than the hole that you're going to cover up. You can either place this patch over or under the hole, like so. In this case, we're going to do it on top of the hole. To start off, you just need to use your hand underneath the patch and the fabric you're working on to pin the patch in place. In this case, I'm using dressmaker's pins, but you can also use safety pins. So once the patch is pinned in place, you need to thread up your needle with a length of thread, normally about 30 to 45 centimetres in length. Because this is a thicker thread, I've gone for just one single piece. Sometimes when it's a finer thread, I'll double it up to give it a bit of extra strength. And then I've just tied a knot at the end. Your first stitch will come up just to the side of the bottom corner of the patch, and you'll use it to just trap the edge of the patch. And then you can just carry on doing a straight running stitch across the width of the patch. You can either do this by pulling the needle up and through and then back down, like so. Or you can do it by getting a few stitches on the needle at once, so pushing it through like this and then dragging the needle through in one go, and that creates the same technique but just getting a few stitches at once. So here you can see the first couple of rows of stitching. I'm just trying to catch the edge of the patch with my last stitch of each row like we did at the start of the patch, and that will just give it some extra strength and stop it from fraying as much. You can space out your lines of stitching as much as you like. You could do them closer together than this or further apart. That's up to you and the style of the patch that you want to make. All you need to do from this point is just carry on creating your lines of stitching all the way across the patch. When you get to your last row of stitching, you'll finish off in the same way that you've been doing at the end of each row, catching the edge of the patch with your final stitch. And you're just going to secure your stitching with a knot at the back of the fabric. You can also use this when you get to the end of a piece of thread during sewing, because you might need to thread up again if you run out of thread on your needle. So one final stitch, catching the edge of the patch, and then going to flip over to the other side, and where the thread is coming out with the needle there, you can get the needle going under one of the other stitches that's nearby and then bring it through, getting the loose bit of thread out of the way. Once you've got a loop there, you can go back through that loop with your needle and pull to make a knot. So we're just going to do that a few more times on the spot so it's extra secure. So a loop, pull through, and a knot. Then you can just trim that down and that's ready to go. So this is the final patch. You can see there's rows of stitching running all the way across the patch. In this case, with the thicker thread, it's created a bit of a textured look to the final finish of the patch. If you want it to be smoother, I'd use a finer thread and a thinner piece of fabric for your patch, and that will create a smoother finish.